A very good morning, dear children. Today we are going to start with chapter 10, Cell and Cell Organelles. In standard 7th, we have learnt about cell and we also learnt about two types of cell, that is plant cell and animal cell. You must remember these two diagrams. We've practiced it a lot of times for exams also, and we know very well, we know the different organelles of these cells also. But let us do a quick revision about the differences between plant cell and animal cell. We know that plant cell has cell wall and chloroplast. It has one large vacuole in the center, because of which the nucleus is present at the side of the plant cell. Animal cell, on the other hand, does not have cell wall. It does not have chloroplast. The vacuole that is present in it is very small, and the nucleus is not at the side, it is in the center of the cell. So this is what we've previously learnt. We have already learnt about plant cell and animal cell. So in this chapter today, we will be learning about organelles. What are organelles? As we know that a human body has different organs in it which play specific function, like heart is there, brain, lungs, liver, small intestine, large intestine. These are all different organs that are present inside the human body. Similarly, we have cells which have different small tiny parts in it. These parts in the cell which do specific functions or which are assigned specific functions are called as the organelles of the cell. So in this chapter we have to learn a total of 10 organelles, that are cell wall, plasma membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi body, lysosome, mitochondria, vacuole and plastids. From these 10 organelles, today we will be learning the first 6 of them. Okay? So we will quickly start with the first one, that is the cell wall. The cell wall. Now the word itself is telling you its function. It is a wall, or it has the word wall in it. So cell wall basically is to support the cell and protect the cell from the outermost environment. It does not allow water, that means excess water, to enter into the cell. So it is basically protecting the cell. Cell wall is one organelle that is present. It is a component of the cell which is found in algae, fungus and plants. Animal cells do not have cell wall. Instead of the cell wall, it has a very thin membrane which protects the cell. Okay. Now, cell wall basically is made up of two main components, that is cellulose and pectin. I repeat, cellulose and pectin. In this, the component or the part which is changing the color is the cellulose, and the wire-like structure that you see is the pectin. Okay, so cell wall means it's made up of cellulose and it is made up of pectin. The main function is protection and support. Plasma membrane. Plasma membrane, also called as cell membrane, is the elastic cover that separates your cell components from the outermost environment. Okay. Now, if you look at the structure of the plasma membrane, it has two main things. One is the protein and one is the lipid bilayer. They have been labeled in the diagram already. Protein is a big structure that you see, and you have the lipid bilayer. Now, lipid bilayer. Lipid is nothing but it is when many fatty acids come together to form a big molecule, that is called as your lipid. It's made up of fatty acids. Bilayer is a word which tells you bi means two. Okay, so there are two layers formed, that is why it's called as lipid bilayer. One layer is towards the outermost environment and one is towards the innermost environment. So the one membrane from it, or one layer from it, is facing the outer environment and one layer is facing the inner environment. Okay, now if you closely look at it, this lipid molecule or this layer is made up of a head and a tail. The head is the yellow circular structure that you see, and the brown thread-like structure is the tail. Whenever you practice drawing this, always remember the tails will be inward, or the tails will face one another and the head will be outside. Okay, so it's the head and you have the tail. Okay, now the plasma membrane is said to be selectively permeable. Selectively permeable means what? It means that it is going to allow only some substances to enter the cell, and it prevents or it stops some substances from entering the cell. So it selects which substance has to enter the cell and which should not enter the cell. Let's look at this. Now, this they show here is the protein which you just now saw. The protein is allowing some substances to go out of the cell and some substances to actually enter the cell. Now, if you see, for you all to understand this properly, they have specifically shown the shape. If you see, spherical substances or round substances are going out and triangle substances are coming inside. So it selectively is allowing only circular substances and triangular substances to move in and out of the cell. If in case there are any substances which are of different shape, obviously it won't be able to enter inside or go out. Why? Because it does not have a specific place to sit onto it. Understanding? This is just an example so that you understand that it is selectively permeable. It is allowing only some substances to go out and some substances to come in. Now, which are those substances? It allows useful molecules, like it is going to allow water, salt, oxygen to enter the cell because it's going to benefit the cell. And all waste substances like carbon dioxide is going to go out of the cell. Okay, so by using this method of the plasma membrane is actually helping and protecting the cell by only allowing useful substances to enter the cell and harmful substances to go out of the cell. Okay, now if in case the environment outside the cell is changing, the environment inside the cell will remain as it is. Whatever happens outside in the environment, it is not going to affect the cell. That protection of the cell from the outermost environment is done by plasma membrane, and this is called as homeostasis. Whatever happens outside, the environment inside will remain the same. That is done by plasma membrane, and that property of maintaining the environment inside as it is called as homeostasis. Now, I told that there are substances which has to come inside and there are substances which has to go outside. Now, in this entry and exit is done by two main pathways. First pathway is where it enters with the help of energy, and one which does not use energy. Let's look at this. So, if in case the entry of the cell, entry of substances inside the cell is using energy, then there are two methods. One is called as endocytosis or exocytosis. And if it is not using energy, it is going to be done by either diffusion or osmosis. We'll repeat this again. If the entry of substances through the plasma membrane is using energy, then the method will be of two types, endocytosis and exocytosis. And if it is not using energy, then it is going to be either diffusion or osmosis. So first we will look at endocytosis. Now, the word endo means inside and the word exo means outside. Okay, so we look at endocytosis. Endocytosis are where the particles, they are engulfed like food from the outermost environment, and it's taken in the form of an organelle into the cell. Particles are engulfed. This is the particles that you see is actually food. So the food is taken into the cell by engulfing it. Okay, the cell membrane, it engulfs the entire particle and forms an organelle altogether. This food is going to be utilized by the cell. So this is called endocytosis. Why? Because it's taking the substances inside the cell. Okay. Second is exocytosis. This is normally done for waste materials. The waste materials come in the form of organelle and it merges with the cell membrane and it is thrown out from the cell membrane. Exocytosis. Why exo? Because it's thrown out. Okay. Exocytosis and endocytosis, they are opposite, or they are the reverse procedures. It's merging with the cell and it's going to be thrown out from the cell. These two processes need energy. So endocytosis was where particles were taken inside the cell. That is why it's called endocytosis. Exocytosis was where particles were thrown out of the cell. Endocytosis is used for food. Exocytosis is used for waste materials. These are the two processes which use or which need energy for the entire process. They need energy for these two things to happen in the cell. However, diffusion and osmosis do not require energy. Diffusion. This is where certain substances or molecules like oxygen or carbon dioxide, they gain entry into the cell or exit from the cell with the help of the proteins. When we were discussing plasma membrane, I told you that the plasma membrane is made up of protein and also the lipid bilayer. Correct? So protein is helping these molecules move from one place to another, and this movement is dependent upon the concentration. Always remember, molecules move from high concentration to low concentration. When molecules are moving from high concentration to low concentration without using energy, that process is called as diffusion. Now we look at osmosis. Now this is a picture which talks about osmosis. Okay, do not get worried looking at the picture. Osmosis are again of two types, endosmosis and exosmosis. Okay, how we saw endocytosis and exocytosis, same thing it is. First, concentrate on the left hand side where it is written as hypotonic solution. Hypotonic solution is where the cell has less water than the outside medium. Okay, so what is water going to do? Water is going to move from high concentration to low concentration. So the water will move into the cell because the cell has less water. This movement of water from high concentration to low concentration is called as endosmosis. Okay. Now you look at the extreme right hand side where it's written as hypertonic solution. This is where the cell has more water than the outside medium. So what is going to happen? Same thing. Water is going to move from its high concentration to its low concentration. Where is water high? It is inside the cell. So what is water going to do? It is going to move out from the cell. Okay, so what happens to the cell in hypotonic solution? When water enters into the cell during endosmosis, the cell is going to swell up. It swells up. Okay, but opposite happens during exosmosis. During exosmosis, what is happening? The water is moving out of the cell, and during this process, what is happening to the cell? The cell is shrinking. This shrinking of the cell is also called as plasmolysis. Okay, we'll repeat this again. On the left hand side, we have hypotonic solution. Hypotonic solution means water in the cell is less than the outside medium. So water moves from high concentration to low concentration. It enters the cell swells up. This process is called endoosmosis. If you look at the right hand side, we have hypertonic solution, which means that the cell has more water than the outside medium. So water will move from high concentration to low concentration, means that water will come out of the cell, causing the cell to shrink. This is called exoosmosis and also plasmolysis. Okay, so if you look at the center, it is isotonic solution. Isotonic solution means what? The medium or the water that is inside the cell and the water that is outside the cell is of the same concentration. So nothing happens to the cell. The cell will remain as it is. It won't swell. It won't shrink. Okay. So what is the difference between diffusion and osmosis then? Diffusion means where substances move or where molecules are moving from high concentration to low concentration. Osmosis is where water is moving from high concentration to low concentration. Okay, so these are the methods how plasma membrane is transferring the materials from one place to another. If it is using energy, it is going to be either endosmosis or endocytosis or exocytosis. If it is not using energy, it is going to be diffusion or osmosis. In diffusion, we know without molecules are moving. Osmosis again will be endosmosis and exosmosis. Alright. Now moving to cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a fluid that is present between the plasma membrane and the nucleus. It's a very sticky substance which has very important substances like amino acid is there, glucose is there, then vitamins are there, and these are very important for the organelles. So the cytoplasm is providing important substances to all the organelles that are inside it. Okay, cytoplasm is dense when you're talking about animal cells. In animal cells, cytoplasm is very dense, whereas in plant cell it is very thin. Okay, and also in the plant cell as we know has a very big vacuole in the center. Okay, as you can see in the picture, if you see where vacuoles are labeled, you see the vacuole is covering the entire middle part of the cell. So what happens to the cytoplasm? It is pushed towards the periphery, or it is pushed towards the end of the cell. See, look at cytoplasm where it is labeled. You see those dotted structures, granular structures, that is basically the cytoplasm. So the cytoplasm is pushed towards the periphery. Okay, so cytoplasm basically helps in giving important substances to the organelles because it contains vital substances in it. Alright. Now going to the most important part of the cell. It is the nucleus. Okay. Nucleus is a double membraned structure. It has double layers in it, and it has, these layers have small pores in it. Small pore means small openings are there. Why are these openings used? They help in movement of material. That is, some materials, if they want to enter the nucleus and some want to move out of the nucleus, then that is basically the movement is being helped by the pores. The pores help in coming inside and moving out of the materials. Okay. This is how it looks. So you basically have the black spots that you see, they are the pores in the nucleus which help in materials to come in and the materials to go out. The nucleus has a very important component in the middle which is called as the nucleolus. Alright, so the nucleolus is one component which is very important. The nucleolus has, along with the nucleolus, there are even fibers, thread-like substances that you see. It is the chromatin fiber. Okay, chromatin, what happens is this fiber, which is thread-like, it starts condensing. Condensing means what? The thread-like structure, they start rolling up. How you have the roll of thread, where the thread is wound around itself several times and it's very neatly placed. Similarly, chromatin also, the fiber also, during cell division, that means when one cell gives me 2 cells, 2 gives me 4, 4 gives me 8, like that. When the cell is dividing and multiplying, at that point of time, the chromatin fiber, this thread-like substances, they nicely arrange themselves and they get condensed to form a X-shaped molecule which is called as a chromosome. I repeat, during cell division, the fiber which is present in the nucleus, it is going to nicely arrange itself. It's going to wound around itself. It is going to become condensed to form a X-shaped structure which is called as the chromosome. Okay, this chromosome plays very important role because when the cell is dividing, the chromosome is going to be given to the newly formed cells. When it is going to be given to the newly formed cell, whatever information was there in the nucleus, that same information is given to the newly formed cell. This process is called as heredity. From which cell the chromosome is given is called as the parent cell, and the cell which takes it or receives it is called as the daughter cell or the offsprings. So the information present in the parent is transferred to the daughter or is transferred to the offspring, and that is how heredity continues. Okay, so nucleus is very, very important organelle because it is helping in heredity, is helping in transferring the information from one generation to another. Not only that, it controls every single activity that is taking place in the cell. Okay, so that is why nucleus is very, very important in the cell. Now coming to endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum, as you can see, is a network kind of a structure which is also connected to the nucleus, and it is also connected to the plasma membrane. So it's like a link in between. It's connected to plasma membrane as well as the nucleus. This network kind of structure is connected with the help of tubes. Small tubes are there which are connecting these network kind of structures. Okay, and all this is filled with fluid. Now if you closely look at it, you will see that there are the one which is in pink, the pink colored structure, the pink colored endoplasmic reticulum. It has small spots on it. Okay, and if you see the orange, slightly orange colored endoplasmic reticulum which is towards the left, if you see, it does not have the spot on it. Okay, so endoplasmic reticulum is basically divided into two. One which has the spots on it, which is called as RER, rough endoplasmic reticulum. Because of the spot, it is rough in texture, so it is rough endoplasmic reticulum. And the one which does not have the spot is called as SER, smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So endoplasmic reticulum is of two types: rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. What are these spots? The spots are nothing but they are ribosomes. So there are ribosomes that is present on the wall of these endoplasmic reticulum, which makes it rough. Okay, so rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosome. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum does not have ribosome. So that is the difference between SER and RER. Alright. The rough endoplasmic reticulum helps in transport of proteins from one part to the Golgi body. And second, whatever waste or whatever toxins or poisons are there which has entered the cell, the endoplasmic reticulum helps to remove it out or throw it out from the cell. So endoplasmic reticulum has two main functions. One, it helps in moving of the proteins from one place to another, and second, it throws all the poisons and toxins from the body, from the cell. It throws it out or it flushes it out. So that is the main role of endoplasmic reticulum. Now if you see down, there is a small circular vessel which is called as a transport vesicle. The proteins which need to be transported are packed up in small cell-like structures which are called as vesicles. These vesicles, very protectively, it is going to transport the proteins from one place to another. Okay. Now this structure, if you see, the pink structure that you see here, it is actually the endoplasmic reticulum. You see those yellow spots, that is actually the ribosome. So if you are seeing ribosome on endoplasmic reticulum, means that this is a rough endoplasmic reticulum. And you see there is a blue colored thread like structure, that is actually the protein. So the protein is being packed up in vesicles and it's being transported. If you see on the left, one protein is just coming into the vesicle. If you see on the right, it is forming a vesicle, and if you see up, one vesicle is already being formed. Understood? So this is how proteins are being packed up in the vesicle. From here, it is going to be taken to the Golgi body. So endoplasmic reticulum packs up the protein and with the help of vesicle transports it through the cytoplasm to the Golgi body. Let's look at how this is done. Okay, so vesicles have come out. They are moving towards the Golgi body and very beautifully they merge with the Golgi body. So proteins moving out, going to the Golgi body and merging up with the Golgi body. Alright. Now coming to Golgi bodies. If you look at the Golgi body, this is made up of flat sac. There are these sac-like structures which are very closely arranged, parallelly arranged to one another. The sac is called as cisternae. Okay, and every sac has enzymes in it. Enzymes means they are chemicals that are present in it. Okay, now the Golgi body has two faces. If you see the upper part, it's written as cis phase, and the lower part, even though it's not written, I will tell you it is a trans phase. So Golgi body has a cis phase and it has the trans phase. Whatever protein came from the endoplasmic reticulum, it enters through the cis phase. So where you saw those vesicles coming and merging, that was actually the cis phase. Okay, now what happens when the proteins enter through the cis phase? Once it has entered the cis phase, it will continuously move down, passing through the different cisternae. Now, when it's passing through the different cisternae, it's going to come across different enzymes and chemicals, which is going to modify it in a very beautiful manner, helping it to become more and more mature. So the proteins enter the cis phase, pass through the cisternae, come across different chemicals and enzymes. It gets beautifully modified. Okay, and then once it reaches the trans phase, which is also called as the maturation phase, once it reaches the end of the Golgi body, it has matured and it comes out of the trans phase. Again, it's beautifully put and packed up in a vesicle, and it is going to go to different places in the cell where proteins are needed. Okay, so Golgi body, because it packs up materials very well, it is also called as the packing organ, or it's called as a secretory organ. Okay, so it's basically like a packing department. It is packing the protein and distributing the substances. Okay, so it takes in protein, it modifies it, it helps the protein to mature, it packs the mature protein and helps to be given, to be distributed to those places where it is needed the most. Okay, we know proteins are very much important. Why? Because they help in forming the cell wall, it helps to form the plasma membrane, it is needed in the plasma membrane, it is needed in lysosome, which you're going to learn, it helps in producing the vacuole. So it is needed, protein is needed almost everywhere in the cell. So the Golgi body is going to help you make the protein, or it helps in distributing the protein wherever it is needed. Okay, so we'll just take a look at this. So it's entering the cis phase, passing through the cisternae, getting modified and moving out of the trans phase, or it's getting matured. So this is how the proteins move out. It's coming in, getting matured, passing through the cisternae, and it moves out of the cell. I hope this is clear. Because so many different organelles you have learnt today, it is very important that you learn and read the textbook properly. Okay, it is very important that we read the textbook. We have covered from pages 67, 68, 69, 70, 71. 5 pages have been taught today. It is very important that you read your textbook properly for better understanding. Thank you.